So, since having my Z, I've loved the car to bits, and this year I want to do a bit more with it. Now, something I've always wanted to do is an F-Series brake upgrade. Now, I had the dreaded ABS pump problem with this car that most Z4 platforms have. Now, ABS units down south managed to fix that for me for about £300, I think it was, so not too bad, which was a refurbed ABS unit. So, now that's working, I've actually got a decent set of working brakes. I say decent. The standard ones aren't. They're a single piston, and they just don't really have the greatest stopping power in the world. But also I'm running the 19-inch CSL wheels, so there's a lot of space behind that wheel and a tiny little BMX-like caliper. So, really wanted to do a big brake upgrade. Now, there's a few out there. You're into the thousands, realistically. But I noticed there's a couple of people that have been running these F-Series calipers. So after many hours hunting and some really helpful people in Z4 forums and groups, in fact one in a Z4 WhatsApp group, I managed to find out, or at least I think, how to fit these calipers on this car. And it's actually not that confusing and fairly inexpensive, if it works. Again, this is just all research getting to this point here in these parts. So this is a 340mm caliper. Now technically I suppose you could use the 380mm, because all they've got is extended carrier holes. The calipers themselves are actually the same size, they take the same pad, they just run of course a bigger disc. Now I want to swap between 18s and 19s because I do want to use this car on track sometimes, so I've gone for the 340s. So 340 F-Series Brembo calipers. Now the difficult part is getting them to line up in regards to the discs, the spacers and so forth. After you.
Yeah, hey up, Ben.
Sorry I got interrupted there, but yeah, the more difficult part from what I can see and everything is getting it all to line up. So from what I can see, these will bolt straight onto your current hub. However, we will need to run one M12 washer just there to bring the calipers over slightly to line them up with the disc. Now the disc was the more interesting part. So the discs that you can run on these are the E86 CSL and the Z4 Coupe discs. However, number one, they're expensive. You're looking about £500 for a set or upwards. They do look cool because they are floating rotors, but their disc face size is a little bit too small for these pads. So you end up with overhang on the inside of the disc. So you need to shave the pad down if you want to run those. So they become a bit more work and they're a lot more expensive. However, after further digging, came across these, which appear to be perfect. Now these are transporter discs, believe it or not. Now the nice thing about that is they have the 5x120 stud pattern already, and they're about 3mm thicker on the bell housing itself, which is brilliant because that's going to bring my wheel out by 3mm, which is going to help me with clearance on these. So these should bolt straight onto the hub. The only thing that won't line up is the secure pin, alignment pin, but that's okay, not too worried about that. Now the transporter discs have a 76mm centre bore. The cool thing is I just called up MTech in Ireland who I got these discs off, and they offer a service where they will bore that out to the desired 79mm. It's about £25. These discs only actually cost about £116. Now arguably for a car that I want to do some track time on, you don't really want £116 discs, but equally these will first and foremost let me know if it all works. Secondly, they're actually designed to stop transporters, which are probably the best part of a ton over this when they're loaded. So if they're good enough to stop those, they should be good enough to stop my Z, hopefully. And MTech were absolutely fantastic. One phone call, they knew exactly what I wanted, they did it and shipped it out, and they look pretty good. They do, however, weigh a ton. Then the final two pieces of the puzzle, wheel spacers. So apparently from what I can see, because these are so wide, my wheels are going to catch them. Now I've already brought myself 3mm with the bell housing on this disc, and then I've got just a little spacer for the moment in case I need it. In fact, I've brought 4 in case I need to stack them just to get the wheel away. Once I've found out exactly what fitment works, I'll buy the proper spacer rather than these things. Now the other thing is brake lines. So I'm going from an E series to an F series. And again, another company that's been so helpful are Hell brake lines. I dropped them one email, spoke to a gentleman called Mark, he told me exactly what I needed, and here they are, again, about £60. And this will go from the E series to the F series caliper. Perfect. And the final thing is, of course, is fluid and pads. For this, I've gone for the Montour 660 because it's got a higher boiling point and it's .4, so I don't have to bleed the whole system to move to .5. And then, never used these before, but highly recommended. We've got ProBite 550s. Apparently we'll be okay on track, but we'll see. Anyway, let's see if it all works. So these are the old discs that I'm taking off. Now this is the standard caliper. Now these are actually pretty new because the previous ones were sticking quite bad, and this is a Mintex disc, I think. And again, they've got a decent pad inside them. Can't remember what I'm running, but I went for the best I could at the time, or the best I could afford. And even with those in, a few hard stops and you start to get brake fade. They're not the best setup. And again, behind the 19s, these are quite lost, massively. So hopefully we're going to be upgrading performance and looks, if it works out. So the previous caliper and disc is now off. We did struggle a little bit because the pinch bolt was seized in there nice and good. And then we've just lined these up to see what we're gonna have to remove. So again, they all line fine, but as you can see, there's just a little bit of the heat shield down here, which we're gonna have to remove. But apart from that, it looks like we can retain the old heat shield. And then we're gonna put two M12 spacers, one behind each side, just to bring this forward a bit, to line it up with the disc. So far, so good. So far so good. Everything that I've been told on the good old internet has worked. We've had to take a tiny little bit off the heat shield at the back, but only about 1 inch. Seems to work fine. The discs from MTech work, so they've been bored out to the 79mm to go over the hub. Ben's just taken off the old brake line at the moment, and then we've got these from Hell Performance, which will take it from an E series to an F series. So far, so good. So just so you know where the washers go, caliper and the washers just go there. That side of the caliper, which spaces it just enough to centralise it with the discs. Again, super simple. Bolts go through the back, put the M12 washer just there, that side, and there we go. So far, so good. So essentially they're on now. Everything that I thought would work has worked. So again, these are the transporter discs. MTech have bored them out in the center, and I'll put all the links below where to get these parts. The only thing that we don't have is the securing pin, because it's different on the transporter to this. However, we're pretty confident with the wheel on, that's gonna line up fine. Calipers are in place. Again, these are the 340s. We've just got to put the pads in and bleed it up, and then we are good to go. And the Hell brake lines worked perfectly, again, from E series to F series. The only thing that you really need to worry about, well, not worry about, is the M12 washers that you put at the back of the caliper to line it up on this. But apart from that, pretty easy install, really. So, calipers on, discs on, looks incredible as we expected. However, we ran into a minor problem, something we didn't really think about until now. We knew we were going to have to run spacers, but we thought it was going to be 3mm. However, it's actually more like 10mm, and we don't have any bolts that will secure the wheel with 10mm spacers. We've actually had to double stack spacers at the moment to figure out exactly what we need to clear this caliper. So we've actually just ordered a, I forgot what we ordered. stud conversion kit. Ordered a stud conversion kit so we can put that in, line everything up, and then we've got loads of room to play. And we're going to get some probably hub-centric 12s or 10s, depending on how the wheel pokes out the arch. But yeah, so for today, we got to where we wanted, but not quite complete. So it's the night after yesterday because we had to leave the car here because we didn't have extended wheel bolts for the spaces that we had to run for the clearance over the calipers. However, we also found something else which is quite interesting. So, you know the M12 washer that I was banging on about, that you need to centralise the caliper? That's not the case. The internet's not always right. So, after we put the calipers on, the wheel wouldn't turn at all because they were pressing so hard against, or the caliper wasn't centralised over the disc. So we've taken the M12 washer out and the caliper is centralised over the disc. So with this disc setup, you don't need the washers. The caliper literally bolts onto the hub. No amendments. Now what we did have to do in the end is go to a stud conversion kit and a 10mm spacer currently to clear the caliper. Now, it does leave it nice and close with the arch, to say the least, but I don't mind the fitment. I'm not angry about that. I'm going to put some BT Racing BR Series coilovers on with camber adjustment. I'm going to tow that in anyway. These wheels are EH21, which I think is the ET21, to give you an idea, and 8.5J on the front. So I am going to look into, because I need a set of track wheels for this car, because that was the idea of this brake kit, track wheels. And the brake kit, by the way, looks exactly as I wanted it to look. It looks really good. We're just going to go and take it out for the first drive now, because again, we've only just got the wheels on after yesterday. But long story short, so calipers fit with the discs from M-Tech, the transporter discs with the central, with the centre board out, fit perfect, and the hell lines fit perfect. So actually, it's even simpler than I said in the start of the video. You don't need the washers, but you will need spacers depending on what wheel you run. I'll post all my wheel specs in the description below, so you can see where I am at. It will work with these CSL style wheels, but it's close. I'll spin this around and show you. So there's your caliper behind the disc, but if you look, no, it's very hard to do actually. Let's do it from here. There we go. That's the clearance I'm working with on a 10mm spacer. And then that's the clearance to the arch on a 10mm spacer. So yeah, they do fit. We're going to see how they break. But hopefully everything in this video has helped you decide if you want to or don't want to do this conversion. And remember, it's a fairly inexpensive conversion. I think the calipers cost me about £300, the discs are about £120, and the lines were £60 or thereabouts. So 480 quid, I think, and you've got a big brake set on the front. The most expensive part for me was the pads, because I went for the Pro Bites, which were £220. But you can actually get the normal Brembo pads for these calipers for about £80 if you want to. But anyway, I hope this helps. I've probably tripped myself up in some of the things that I've said over here, so don't shout at me if I'm wrong in some bits, but I'm only here to help you figure if you want to do this to yours. Anyway, let's hope it drives okay, and hopefully see you at a track or a show.